Welcome to Rauta's triple review. This time it's about black metal band that decided to send me not just only their latest album, but also some previous works, which makes it a kind of a nice way to go a little bit halfway retrospective. I say halfway because this is not totally, disclosing the whole discography, but still 3 different albums, which they are right here. I think it's very fair to start with the unboxing one or showing you the albums. Then talk about the music while we have Metal Archive's side as backdrop and talk to you about the individual albums all together. Let's go first with this one. If I remember correctly, this should be in a chronological order. So this is Menschenhasser. And all these are through different labels, if I'm not mistaken. And they're also all digipacks. Mind you, this band has a little bit unusual take on the corpse painting, which you might see in a bit. This album in particular doesn't have a booklet, but it's a nice, non-glassy digipack, 3-folding and all that stuff. So those who are looking for lyrics might be a little bit disappointed. Then the second one in question, if I remember correctly, is this one, with some Japanese style in a way on the cover. And this one is also simplistic digipack, but this time it actually has a booklet, which I'll show you here. Comes with the band photos and some lyrical content. So those who now want to explore a little bit further can really enjoy the full packaging right here. Now musically, especially these two are quite close to one another, which I will explain in a bit. And then there are these changes towards the further we go with the band style. Once again, non-glossy digipack and with the booklet this time as well. And another set of band photos, which should give you a little bit of idea of the corpse paints I was talking about. So let's take a closer look into that in a bit. Here it is, once again, the band's style with the photos and lyrics. Now you've seen it all in terms of packaging. Let's not waste more time of that. This is not exactly a new band, as I was guessing when I got the contact from the band, like I haven't ever heard of Misanthropic Might. What I'm missing is exactly 25 years old band now, which totally surprised me by the storm. And they have already 4 albums out there as well. Not the most active in the sense like between the first and second album, 9 years. But ever since the band has picking up the pace at least a little bit more. 4 years after the second and third one, and then 7 years with the third and fourth one. Which is exactly why the band contacted me, because this Qualzucht is 2025 album. But like mentioned, we have this album number 2, 3, and 4 for review. Now, one thing I want to take a look, which I didn't prior to making this one, is similar artists. What does it say? It just says Ewiges Reich. Well, I'm going to add a couple of bands here now when I'm doing this, because there are things which really remind me of this band. One of them is definitely Dark Funeral, and why is actually number 2 and 3. Then there's also this Marduk kind of a thing, and I always suggest if you're using Metal Archive site as a registered user, and if you think certain bands are similar to one another, do yourself and other people as well a favor and add these to this list, because it actually helps people out, people finding out about more of those bands. It might be your cup of tea as well. But we're not to talk about Metal Archive side, we're talking about the music. Let's start with Menschenhasser, which is the 2014 album, came here as the first one. So this one is 46 minutes of music, 8 tracks, and melodic black metal. Fast tempo is the name of the game. Now there are some mid-tempo parts too, but first and foremost I would like to say this reminds me a lot of Dark Funeral. Now, Dark Funeral with a twist maybe, but nonetheless. So yeah, it's very straightforward, it's often fast tempo, and it's this melodic style which really could take you mentally anyway to Sweden. Now, there are some differences, obviously, to Dark Funeral, and one of them are the use of growl vocals. I'm talking about the death metal growl vocals here. So these are just maybe one of the many items that separate these from the band I was referring to, but it's worth mentioning. So based on Menschenhasser, now I would be thinking, if I like Dark Funeral, I'm probably gonna like Misanthropic Might too. Which one is better is obviously up to any given individual taste and all. I would say Misanthropic Might doesn't reach the heights of the best era of Dark Funeral, but main stuff roughly in the same box. Production-wise, vocals-wise, and all that stuff, I think they're doing the right job, meaning they do have some good melodies. They are very aggressive with their style, which is definitely interesting if you are into that kind of stuff, meaning, once again, the fast tempo and all that straightforward stuff. Now, mid-tempo stuff is more like a seasoning. It really gives a little bit of alternative pacing to the music, and I think it does it right, because if it was all the way 46 minutes of just blast beats and all, it would get a little bit boring, much like grind. But with these slower parts, which are more in the mid-tempo section, and a little bit of seasoning coming from the growl vocals, which I'm not that big fan of in terms of black metal, I think it's a pretty decent album. Like I said, there are no major malfunctions, production, vocals, everything is just like pretty okay. So definitely a good place to start listening to this band. Now, Feindt, 4 years later, is basically the same thing all over again, now with 40 minutes and 9 tracks. So a little bit shorter in terms of average track, but the style is roughly the same. However, I would say that this album, which is later on released on CD in 2018, 2019 on LP, but originally digitally. So this one is actually like a little bit more polished version of the first one. I'm not saying they're exactly the same, but really catering exactly the same kind of need, same kind of a taste. So if you like this other album, you're most likely gonna like this one too. Very dark funeral-like thing going on. Once again, melodies, fast tempo, aggressiveness, and once again a little bit of growl vocals in the mix, which seems to be their way of doing that stuff. Now, I'm not gonna say it's a bad thing, but it's definitely gonna divide people into those who are like, oh, I don't like death metal vocals in my black metal, please keep them out. Or more like, hey, it's nice to have something different for a change. Now, once again, the focus is more on the melodic fast tempo thing, but these slow tempo or mid tempo stuff, like which more it is actually than slow tempo, is definitely once again creating enough variety so it makes it more interesting. So these two albums to me are more like kind of a back-to-back release. It's a very typical sense, like you figure out what you're gonna do and you're gonna do the more of the same. Now, if this was a starting point, I would say it's a very typical second album, but exactly it is a third album. So the second album and third one very much going hand in hand. Now, something, however, changed with the 7 years, and now I'm thinking, was it because of the lineup changes? But it's not. As you can see, there are 3 original members from 2000 in the band, and still third one who is 2002 and onwards. So pretty much if you now go for the discography, you will see, yeah, 3 members were already present in the band when they started doing the debut album. If you go for the past list, there are a few members that have left the band, but nothing too important. So you could say 3 guys who were definitely defining the whole style from the beginning. And now when we're talking about these later albums, you can pretty much see, yeah, even the other guitar player joined in 2012, which means he has been in the band ever since for the 3 other albums. But during 7 years, something changed. It's not dramatic, but it's in a slight improvement once again. I would actually go for as much as to say with Qualzucht jumped even more, improved the band even more than what Feindt did to Menschenhasser. This time it's a little bit different. However, the main thing is once again with the same. And by the way, worth mentioning is this is independent. Why on earth? I do not know, because the album is really good enough for labels. Then again, I'm pretty sure there are some mentions. Not really. This is just HFC 004, which means they are on label, but they are not listed here. And actually, the second album is also HFC, so maybe it's missing out information. Anyway, this time it's even shorter. It's only 34 minutes, give or take, with 8 tracks. So once again, it's kind of a shortening, making these songs more compact. And it's really doing a favor to this band. Why? Well, now the aggression level is a little bit like notch up. It's almost like moving away from the Dark Funeral, box to a Marduk kind of a box. Now, it's not exactly Panzer Division Marduk kind of stuff, but it's getting closer to that kind of aggression. So this dark, melodic, fast tempo style of Dark Funeral is a little bit like, changing. And now it's become more like a Marduk kind of a thing. Now, if you feel this name dropping is a little bit unfair and it's like I'm unable to talk about everything else. Yes, obviously I could compare this to other bands as well, but what would be the point listing some underground names that nobody have ever heard of? So it's good to stick with someone more known names, because everybody in the black metal knows Dark Funeral and Marduk. This is exactly my excuse here. So what I'm saying here is, now they have moved on to something different, and in my opinion, the songwriting is overall better. Production-wise, vocal-wise, the changes are not that big, and it's not even needed, because all of these 3 albums do have good vocals and good production. I mean, you can't really complain about the drums, bass, guitars, and all that stuff. Really, not much anyway. So I'm saying the focus is on the song. And so often songwriting can be, very wavery. I mean, there are bands that go all the way up, getting better over the years, but most bands don't do that. Some bands do the best stuff early in the beginning and then they go slightly decline, or at least it's going to be bumpy road, like good, decent, bad, blah, blah, blah. Or maybe not bad ones, but you know what I'm talking about. Not every band gets to improve. But for me, out of 4 albums, these 3 albums coming one after another have been improving the go. And so far, I think Qualzucht is so far the better. This kind of gives me the idea, maybe I shouldn't even go for the first album. Maybe I eventually will, who knows. But for the scope of this review, yeah, it's easy to pick up the winner. All of them are worth listening to. I would say, however, that if you want to start with something, now it goes whether you are more like a Marduk or Dark Funeral fan, or preferring certain styles. Qualzucht is that stuff you should start with, in my opinion, if you are now interested to check out the band. It really had some nice thing going on. If it only was even more memorable, it would be a really good album. Now it's good, but maybe with some minor flaws. Anyway, was very cool to get to know this band a little bit more, because like I said previously, I had no previous encounters about the band. And now that I have heard all of these 3 albums, I'm just like, yeah, I'm happier place right now. Would definitely like to see these guys play live. I think it could be really, really fierce and aggressive. Let's just hope they find a bigger label, because I think this kind of music totally deserves that, meaning more distribution, more gigs, and so forth. But now it's your time to give this band a go. If I got you interested, check out the links provided in the description box, and if you like it, go buy it. It's always a good idea to support a band you might actually end up listening to. So what are you waiting for? Start clicking the music and stop listening to me. Off you go. Bye.